The ships came on a Tuesday morning. 200 vessels appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. They blocked out the sun over half the planet, their shadows falling across cities like dark omens. Every television, every phone, every radio crackled with the same message in every human language. People of Earth, we are the Varith Dominion. We have conquered 47 species across this galaxy. All of them surrendered within days. You will do the same. Submit to our rule, or watch your world burn. You have 6 hours to respond. The message came from High Commander Threll, who sat in his command chair aboard the largest ship. He was tall and gray-skinned, with 4 eyes that had watched countless civilizations fall. To him, Earth was just another planet full of weak creatures who would soon kneel in the war room of the command ship. Sub-Commander Vex studied the blue planet below. "Commander, should we wait for their response?" Threll made a sound like laughter. "Why wait? Show them what happens to those who hesitate." 3 beams of light shot down from the fleet. They struck Seoul, Sydney, and Madrid at the same moment. The cities vanished in fire and smoke. Millions of lives ended in seconds. Buildings that had stood for centuries turned to ash. Families eating breakfast, children walking to school, old men feeding birds in the park, all gone in a flash of alien light. Threll watched the destruction on his screen with bored eyes. Now they understand. Prepare the surrender documents. But something strange happened. Instead of panic, instead of leaders begging for mercy on every channel, Earth went quiet. Every radio frequency fell silent. Every broadcast stopped. For 6 hours, humanity said nothing at all. In the command ship, Skolakora Veroth, scientist assigned to study conquered species, noticed something on her instruments. She was smaller than the soldiers, with gentle eyes that had seen too much suffering. Her job was to learn about new species, to understand them so the Dominion could control them better. "Commander," she said carefully, "I am detecting unusual activity on the planet's surface." "Fear no doubt," Threll replied. "They are running, hiding, like all the others." "No, sir." Cora's voice was uncertain. "They are not running. They are gathering, moving toward central locations. Millions of them. In their communications, they are not panicked. They are organized, coordinated." Threll waved his hand dismissively. "Impossible. We just killed millions of their kind. They should be broken." But Cora kept watching her screens, and a cold feeling grew in her stomach. She had studied many species before their conquest. She had seen fear, despair, hopelessness. This was different. This was something she had never seen before. Deep underground. In a bunker that had survived nuclear war scares for decades, military leaders from 40 nations sat around a massive table. They had been enemies once. Some had pointed weapons at each other just months ago. Now they sat together, united by something stronger than old hatreds. At the head of the table stood Han Tezu. He was 43 years old, a former Special Forces commander with scars on his hands and grief in his eyes. His wife and daughter had been in Seoul. He had watched the light take them while he was on a video call, telling his little girl he would be home soon. He had not cried. He had not screamed. He had simply ended the call, walked to his commanding officer, and said, "Tell me what to do." Now he looked at the faces around him. Russians, Chinese, Europeans, Africans, all of them with the same cold fire in their eyes. They had lost people too. They had all lost someone. "They think they broke us," Han Tesu said, his voice steady as stone. "They killed our families, our friends, our children, and they expect us to kneel." He paused, letting the silence fill the room. "They have made a mistake. The worst mistake any enemy can make. They have given us something we have not had in a long time. They have given us a common enemy. They have united us." A Russian general nodded slowly. "My grandfather fought the Nazis. My father fought in Afghanistan. We know how to suffer. We know how to wait. We know how to make invaders bleed." An American admiral spoke next. "They have better technology, better ships, better weapons. But they have never fought anything like us. They don't know what we are." Han Tesu turned to a screen showing satellite images of the alien fleet. They see our cities burning and think we are weak. They do not understand. Humans are not weak. We are survivors. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars against ourselves. We split the atom and used it on our own kind. We are the most dangerous thing on this planet, and now we have something to point that danger at. He pressed a button, and his face appeared on screens in bunkers across the world. Billions of people, huddled in basements and shelters, watched him speak.
Oh.
To every human who can hear me, they came here thinking we were prey. They were wrong. They woke up something they do not understand. We will not surrender. We will not forgive. We will fight them in our cities, in our forests, in our mountains. We will fight them with guns and knives and bare hands if we must. And we will make them regret the day they ever looked at our planet. His voice hardened. They wanted war. Now they have one. In orbit, the Verith waited for surrender. Hours passed. Then days. No white flags. No begging. Instead, their sensors detected something that made even Sub-Commander Vex uncomfortable. "Commander," he reported, "the humans are not fleeing their remaining cities. They are fortifying them, digging tunnels, moving weapons. And there are heat signatures underground, millions of them, moving in organized patterns." Threll frowned. This was not how conquered species behaved. They should be broken, scattered, leaderless. Instead, they were preparing. Scholar Cora approached with a data pad in her trembling hands. "Commander, I have been researching human history. I think you need to see this." "What is it?" Cora swallowed hard. "They call them world wars. They have fought 2 of them, against each other. They killed over 100 million of their own kind in just 30 years. They developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet, and they used them on themselves." Threll stared at her. "That is madness," as Cora agreed. "And there is more. Their entire evolution has been a fight for survival. Their planet tried to kill them with ice, with disease, with predators, with natural disasters. They survived everything. They did not just survive, they conquered their own world." She looked up at him with fear in her eyes. "Commander, I do not think we have invaded a normal civilization. I think we have invaded a species that has been at war with anything for its entire existence." For the first time, Threll felt a tiny seed of doubt. He crushed it quickly. "Nonsense. They are primitives with primitive weapons. We will crush them." But as he looked down at the blue planet below, something had changed. The world that had seemed so small and helpless now looked different somehow. It looked like a trap waiting to spring, and somewhere on that planet, in a dark bunker lit by flickering screens, Hantesu stared at the stars with eyes that held no fear, only patience and a cold, burning promise of revenge. The Verith had come to conquer Earth. They had no idea what they had just started. 3 weeks after the first attack, the Verith landed their ground forces. 10,000 soldiers in gleaming black armor descended on what remained of humanity's cities. They expected to find broken survivors begging for mercy. They expected to round up prisoners like farmers, collecting sheep. They found something very different. The first unit landed in the ruins of Tokyo. 50 Ruth soldiers marched through empty streets, their weapons ready. The buildings were destroyed, the roads cracked and broken. There was no movement anywhere. No sound except the wind. "Scan for life forms," ordered the unit commander.
"Oh, nothing, sir."
"The area appears abandoned." The commander nodded with satisfaction. The humans had fled, just as they should. He raised his communicator to report their easy victory. That was when the first bullet took off. His head. Gunfire erupted from every direction. From windows that had seemed empty, from piles of rubble that had seemed dead, from beneath the very ground they stood on. Within minutes, all 50 Verith soldiers were dead. Their bodies were stripped of weapons and armor before the sun set. This scene repeated itself across the planet. Verith patrols vanished without a trace. Supply convoys exploded on roads rigged with hidden bombs. Officers were shot from distances so great the soldiers never even heard the gunfire. The humans did not fight in neat lines like every other species the Vareth had conquered. They fought like ghosts, like shadows, like something born from nightmares, in a bunker beneath the mountains of Korea. Hantesu reviewed reports from resistance cells worldwide. Beside him stood Yanji, a former intelligence officer with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had been coordinating the global resistance, turning chaos into strategy. 300 enemy soldiers killed today, she reported. We lost 42 of our own. Better than yesterday. Hantesu nodded but did not smile. Every number was a person. A family destroyed. A future ended. But they could not afford to mourn. Not yet. What about the scientist? He asked. The one working on their technology? Yonji led him down a long corridor to an underground laboratory. Inside, surrounded by captured alien equipment, was Yuna. She was young, barely 30, with tired eyes and oil-stained hands. Before the invasion, she had been an astrophysicist, dreaming of peaceful contact with alien life. Now, she spent her days tearing apart the technology of those who had murdered her colleagues. I found something, Yuna said without looking up. She held a piece of Vareth armor in her hands. Their shields. Their personal defense systems. They are designed to stop energy weapons. Lasers, plasma, the weapons that every advanced species uses. And Hantesu leaned closer. Yuna picked up an old rifle from the table. She fired it at the armor. The bullet punched straight through. They never considered kinetic weapons, she said with a cold smile. Bullets, arrows, rocks thrown hard enough. They think these are primitive. Beneath them. They never built defenses against them. She looked at Hantesu. Their technology is 1,000 years ahead of ours, but they forgot the basics. They forgot that sometimes the simplest weapon is the most deadly. Word spread quickly through the resistance. Soon, every fighter knew the truth. The aliens could be killed with simple guns. Their mighty shields were useless against the weapons humanity had used for centuries. It was like discovering that giants were afraid of mice. In another part of the bunker, Daeho worked with a team of engineers. He was an older man, quiet and patient, with hands that could build anything. Before the war, he had designed cars. Now he designed weapons. Look at this, he said, holding up a strange device. Vareth power cell. One of these holds more energy than a nuclear plant produces in a year. We found it on a dead soldier. Connected wires to the device. Now watch. He attached the power cell to an old machine gun. When he pulled the trigger, the bullets flew so fast they were invisible. The target dummy across the room did not just fall, it disintegrated. We can use their own technology against them, Daeho said. Their armor, their weapons, their power sources. Everything they bring to kill us, we can turn around and use to kill them. The news reached the Varath command ship within days. Sub-Commander Vex stood before Commander Threll with a report he did not want to give. We have lost 1,200 soldiers in 3 weeks, he said carefully. Ground operations have stalled. Our patrols are being ambushed constantly. The humans are using our own equipment against us. Threll slammed his fist on his chair. Impossible. They are primitives. They are adapting, Commander. Faster than any species we have encountered. Vex hesitated. There is more. We captured some of their fighters. We tried to interrogate them, and they do not break. Vex's voice was quiet. We used every method. Pain, threats, promises of mercy. They laughed at us. One of them, a female badly wounded, she spat in my face and said, "Kill me. 100 more will take my place." Then she died, smiling. Threll was silent for a long moment. In 40 years of conquest, he had never heard such a report. Conquered species begged. They wept. They betrayed each other to save themselves. They did not laugh in the face of death. Scholar Cora stepped forward nervously. "Commander, may I speak?" "What?" She activated a display showing human history. Images flashed across the screen. Soldiers charging into certain death. Pilots crashing their planes into enemy ships. Fighters holding positions against impossible odds, dying to the last person. They have a word, Cora said. Sacrifice. They consider it honorable to die for their people, for their families, for ideas they believe in. She showed more images. Humans marching into fire. Humans standing before tanks. Humans choosing death over surrender again and again throughout their history. This is not normal, she continued. Most species surrender when victory becomes impossible. Humans do not. They have a saying, "It is better to die on your feet than live on your knees." They mean it. They truly, genuinely mean it. Thrall stared at the images. He saw soldiers smiling as they charged into enemy fire. He saw ordinary people fighting trained armies with farming tools. He saw a species that simply refused to accept defeat, no matter how hopeless the situation. What are they? He whispered. Cora turned off the display. I do not know, Commander. But I am beginning to think we made a terrible mistake coming here. On Earth, the resistance grew stronger every day. Nari, a young combat medic, worked in a field hospital hidden in subway tunnels. She had saved hundreds of lives with steady hands and a calm voice. She had held dying soldiers and told them lies about how everything would be fine. She had not slept properly in weeks. One night, Vareth forces discovered the hospital. 50 alien soldiers surrounded the entrance. There was no escape. No rescue coming. Nari looked at the wounded around her. Many could still hold weapons. They were hurt, broken, barely alive, but their eyes were clear. We can surrender, she said. They might let the wounded live. An old soldier with bandages covering half his face laughed. Girl, I did not survive 3 wars to die begging. Give me a gun, others nodded. Soon, every wounded fighter who could hold a weapon had one. They positioned themselves at doorways and windows. They waited. The battle lasted 6 hours. When reinforcements finally broke through, they found Nari still alive, carrying a child on her back and firing a rifle with her free hand. Around her lay 32 dead Vareth soldiers and the bodies of the wounded who had fought to the end. She did not cry. She did not celebrate. She simply asked, "Where is the next hospital? There are more wounded to save." In orbit, the Vareth fleet watched their soldiers die below. Whispers spread through the ships. Stories of humans who fought after being shot, who set traps with their own dying bodies, who smiled when surrounded because it meant they could shoot in every direction. For the first time in the history of the Vareth Dominion, soldiers began refusing ground deployment. The hunters were learning what it felt like to be hunted, and somewhere in a bunker, Hantesu planned the next phase of humanity's revenge. The Vareth had wanted to conquer Earth. Instead, they had kicked a hornet's nest, and the hornets were just getting started. 2 months into the invasion, the Vareth Dominion controlled the skies above Earth. Their ships orbited like dark moons, untouchable and supreme. They could destroy any city they wished. They could rain fire from the heavens whenever they wanted, but on the ground, they were dying. Commander Thrall sat alone in his quarters, staring at reports he did not want to read. 4,000 soldiers dead. Equipment worth more than some planets stolen by primitive humans. Ground commanders requesting permission to retreat. Morale falling every day. He had conquered 47 species. None of them had cost him this much. None of them had even come close. A soft knock at his door. Scholar Cora entered, her eyes troubled. Commander, the soldiers are calling Earth the cursed world. They say anyone who goes down never comes back. Some are refusing orders. Execute them, Thrall said coldly. We cannot execute half the army, Commander. He slammed his fist against the wall. Then what do you suggest? Cora was quiet for a moment. Perhaps we should consider withdrawal. This planet is not worth no. Thrall's eyes blazed with fury. I have never retreated. I will not let these animals be the first to defeat me. In that moment, neither of them knew that their worst day was about to begin. Deep in the mountains of South America, a hidden runway stretched beneath camouflage netting. Here in secret, Deho and his engineers had been working on their greatest project yet, human pilots, Flying captured Vareth fighters, Wusong sat in the cockpit of one such fighter, running his hands over alien controls that had become familiar through weeks of training. He was 56 years old, a veteran pilot with gray in his hair and fire in his heart. His son had been in Sydney. "How does it feel?" Hantasu asked through the radio. "Like revenge," Wusong replied. "Like beautiful, beautiful revenge." Around him, 11 other pilots powered up their stolen ships. They had trained in secret, crashed a dozen times, lost friends to alien technology they barely understood. But now they were ready. Their target hung in orbit above the Ma, Varoth supply ship carrying weapons, food, and ammunition for the ground forces. Destroy it, and the soldiers below would starve. Remember, Yunji's voice came through all their radios. We only get one chance at surprise. After this, they will know we can reach them. Make it count. The 12 fighters screamed into the sky. In orbit, Vareth's sensors detected the launch immediately. Subcommander Vex frowned at his screens. 12 of our own fighters launching from the planet's surface? What unit is that? No one had an answer. Then the fighters opened fire on the supply ship. Chaos erupted across the Varoth fleet. Their own weapons tore into their own ship. The supply vessel's shields held for only seconds before collapsing under the assault. Explosions ripped through its hull. Thousands of tons of supplies meant for ground forces scattered into the void. "Those are humans," Vex shouted. "They are flying our ships." The Vareth responded with overwhelming force. Dozens of fighters launched to intercept. Defense systems powered up across the fleet. Within minutes, the battle became a desperate chase through the debris field. One by one, the human pilots fell. Their stolen ships were good, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Bright explosions marked each death, each sacrifice, each human who chose to die rather than run. Wusong saw his squadron being destroyed around him. 5 left, then 3, then only him. His ship was damaged, leaking fuel, barely flying. A dozen enemy fighters surrounded him. He should have died with the others. But his ship kept moving, kept fighting, kept refusing to fall. "Old man," a voice crackled through his radio. It was Han Tae-soo. "Come home." Wusong looked at his instruments. His weapons were empty. His fuel was almost gone. But below him, through the cockpit window, he could see the supply ship still burning. They had done it. They had actually done it. "Not yet," he said. "I have one more thing to do." He aimed his dying ship at the largest piece of the supply ship, the section that held its power core. "Tell my son's mother I will see them both soon." Sung hit the accelerator. The explosion lit up the sky. Above 3 continents, on the ground. Humans looked up and saw a new star burning in the heavens. They did not know what it meant, but they felt it. Something had changed. The war had changed. In the Vareth command ship, silence filled the bridge. A supply vessel worth billions of credits, destroyed by 12 pilots flying stolen ships. The humans had reached orbit. They had struck the fleet itself. It was supposed to be impossible. How? Threll whispered. "How did they learn to fly our ships?" No one answered. EUNG did not wait for the enemy to recover. Within hours, her teams began the next phase of the war, psychological warfare. Vareth communication systems had weaknesses. Yuna had found them, mapped them, exploited them. Now, every soldier in the fleet began receiving messages they could not block. Images of dead, Varath soldiers appeared on personal screens. Audio recordings of human war cries echoed through corridors. And one phrase, translated into the Vareth language, repeated endlessly. "We do not surrender. We do not forgive. We do not stop." Soldiers who had conquered worlds began sleeping with lights on. Veterans of a dozen campaigns flinched at shadows. The whispers spread like disease through the fleet. "They are not like the others. They learn our weapons in days. They smile when they die. They are coming for us." On the planet below, the resistance grew bolder. Daeho built more weapons. Yuna cracked more secrets. Han Tae-soo planned attacks that seemed impossible until they succeeded. Every day, more Vareth died. Every day the humans grew stronger. Nari now led teams of medics who worked on the front lines. She had saved so many lives that soldiers called her the ghost doctor, always appearing where she was needed most. Always keeping her patients alive long enough to fight again. One night while patching up a wounded fighter, she heard the young man whisper, "Are we winning?" Nari looked at the sky, where distant explosions still marked Wusung's sacrifice. "Ask me again tomorrow," she said. And the day after that. Keep asking until the answer is yes. The Vareth High Council sent a message to Commander Threll. It was not congratulations. It was not reinforcements. It was an ultimatum. End this embarrassment within 30 days or face execution for incompetence. Threll read the message alone in his quarters. His hands trembled with rage. 47 species conquered. A lifetime of victories. And now he would be remembered as the commander who lost to primitives. He made his decision. If he could not conquer Earth, he would burn it. Every city, every town, every village reduced to glass and ash. The humans could live in the wilderness like animals, hunted for sport until none remained. He walked to the bridge, where his officers waited. "Prepare the orbital bombardment systems," he ordered. "Target every major population center on the planet." Sub-Commander Vex stepped forward. "Commander, that will kill billions." The High Council wanted a conquest, not a genocide. The High Council is not here. Threll's eyes were cold. "I am, and I will not be defeated by these creatures. If they will not kneel, they will burn." Scholar Cora watched from the back of the bridge, horror in her eyes. She had studied humans for weeks now. She knew their history, their art, their music, their stories. They were cruel and violent, yes, but they were also beautiful. They created wonders, even as they destroyed each other. They were flawed and magnificent, terrible and inspiring, and now they would be erased. She looked down at the blue planet turning slowly below. Somewhere down there, humans were fighting, loving, hoping, dreaming. They did not know that in 30 days, their world would end. But Scholar Cora knew something else. Something she had learned from studying human history. They always found a way, even when victory was impossible. Even when all hope seemed lost, humans found a way to survive. They had done it for millions of years. They would do it again. She just hoped she would live long enough to see how, and far below. In a bunker filled with maps and plans and desperate hope, Hantezu received word of the coming bombardment. He did not panic. He did not despair. He simply looked at his Timuna, Deho Yunji, Nari, and 100 others, and said 6 words that would change history. "Then we take the fight up." Commander Threll's announcement echoed across every frequency on Earth. His voice was cold, certain and utterly without mercy. "People of Earth, your resistance has been noted. It has been impressive, but it ends now. In 48 hours, we will begin orbital bombardment of every population center on your planet. Your cities will be reduced to ash. Your civilization will be erased. Those who survive will be hunted until none remain. You have been given a chance to surrender. You have refused. Now face the consequences of your choice." The message ended. Silence fell across the world, in bunkers and shelters, in hidden bases and secret tunnels. Humanity listened. Mothers held their children. Soldiers gripped their weapons. Leaders stared at maps that would soon be meaningless. They had fought so hard, lost so much. And now it would all end in fire from the sky. But in one particular bunker, deep beneath the Korean mountains, there was no despair. There was only planning. Han Tae-soo stood before a holographic display of the Vareth fleet. Around him sat what remained of the global leadership generals, scientists, strategists from every nation. They had 48 hours to do the impossible. "Cannot stop orbital bombardment," Han Tae-soo said. "Our missiles are too slow. Their countermeasures are too strong. If they start firing, we die." No one argued. It was simple truth. "So we have one option." He pointed at the largest ship in the fleet, the command vessel. "We kill the commander before he gives the order." Murmurs rippled through the room. "Kill the command ship. It was surrounded by 200 warships. Its shields could withstand nuclear strikes. No human weapon could even scratch it. Deho stepped forward. He looked like he had not slept in days, because he had not. "There might be a way," he said quietly. He activated a new display. 3 objects appeared crude, ugly, nothing like the elegant Verith technology. They looked like missiles wrapped in scrap metal and hope. Evroth power cells, Deho explained. "We've been collecting them from every dead soldier, every crashed ship, every piece of captured equipment. I have combined them with our nuclear warheads. The yield is significant." "How significant?" someone asked. "Each one could destroy a small moon." Silence again. Then a British general spoke. "Can they reach the command ship?" "Yes, but there is a problem." Deho's voice grew heavy. "Their countermeasures will destroy automated missiles within seconds. The only way to get through is manual guidance. A pilot would need to fly each missile, dodging countermeasures, making decisions no computer can make. It is a one-way trip," everyone understood. 3 missiles. 3 pilots. 3 people who would fly into the heart of the enemy fleet, knowing they would never return. Hantesu did not hesitate. "I will take the lead missile." The room erupted. Generals shouted that he was too valuable. Strategists insisted they needed him for what came after. But Hantesu raised his hand and silence returned. "My family died in Seoul. I have been waiting for this chance since the day they took them from me. I will not ask someone else to do what I am not willing to do myself." He looked around the room. "I need volunteers." Every hand went up in the end. Hantesu chose a young woman named Biora, who had lost her entire village in the first attack, and an old soldier named Dong-sik, who said he had lived long enough and wanted to die doing something that
Saturday.
They had 36 hours to prepare. Yuna worked without rest. She had one task: create a virus that could disrupt Veroth's ship systems, even for a few seconds. A few seconds of confusion might be all the missiles needed to slip through. "I cannot guarantee it will work," she told Hantesu. "Their systems are too different from ours. I am guessing as much as calculating." He put a hand on her shoulder. "Then guess well. Nari came to see him the night before the launch. She'd been crying, though she tried to hide it. You do not have to do this," she said. "There are other ways." "There must be other ways." Hantesu smiled sadly. "There are not. You know there are not." He took her hands. "But there is something you must do for me. When this is over, win or lose, humanity will need healers. Not just for bodies, but for souls. We will need people who remember how to be kind, how to hope, how to rebuild. That must be you. Promise me." Or he could not speak. She just nodded, tears falling freely now. Yonji spent the final hours preparing one last broadcast. If the mission succeeded, the fleet would be in chaos. Humanity needed to be ready to act. If it failed, at least the galaxy would know that humans did not go quietly. She recorded the message in a small room, alone with a camera. This message is for everyone, human and Verith alike. We are about to attempt the impossible. If you are receiving this, it means we have struck at the heart of the enemy fleet. We did not surrender. We did not break. We took the war to them, as we always do. Whatever happens next, remember this moment. Remember that when faced with extinction, we chose to fight. Not because we thought we would win, but because that is who we are. We are humans. We do not give up. We do not back down. And we do not die quietly. She paused and her voice softened. To anyone who survives what comes next, tree build. Not just our cities, but our hope. We have proven that we can face the darkness. Now we must prove that we can find the light again. The launch happened at dawn. 3 missiles rose from hidden bunkers across the planet. They climbed through the atmosphere, breaking free of Earth's gravity. Rising toward the enemy fleet that had brought so much death, the Varath detected them immediately. 3 projectiles incoming, Sub-Commander Vex reported. Primitive design. Nuclear signatures detected. Countermeasures engaging. Commander Threll watched the display with cold satisfaction. Destroy them. Energy beams lanced out. The first missile barrage vanished in a ball of fire. She did not even have time to scream. Threll allowed himself a small smile. Pathetic. They thought they could touch us with such crude weapons. But the second missile kept coming. Dong-Seek was old, but his hands were steady. He weaved through the defensive fire, using every trick he had learned in 50 years of flying. Beams missed him by meters. He laughed as he flew, shouting human war songs into the void. A beam finally caught his ship. Alarms screamed. Fire filled the cockpit. Not yet, Dong-Seek growled through burning lungs. Not yet. His damaged missile slammed into the heart of the Vareth defensive line. The explosion consumed 6 warships instantly. The debris field it created threw the fleet's targeting systems into chaos. And through that chaos, Ontezu flew. Yuna's virus hit the Varath systems at the perfect moment. For 3 seconds, every screen flickered. Every sensor glitched. Every weapon hesitated. 3 seconds was enough. Ontezu's missile shot through the gap. Untouched, unstoppable, aimed directly at the command ship. On the bridge, Commander Threll watched it come. There was no time to fire, no time to raise shields, no time to do anything but stare. On his view screen, a human face appeared. Hontasu, smiling, tears streaming down his cheeks. "This is for my wife," Hontasu said. "This is for my daughter. This is for everyone you killed." Threll opened his mouth to speak, perhaps to beg, perhaps to curse, perhaps to say something that would be remembered. He never got the chance. The missile struck. The command ship disappeared in light brighter than a star. The explosion rippled outward, destroying everything within kilometers. Secondary explosions tore through nearby vessels. The flagship of the Vareth invasion fleet became scattered atoms drifting through the void. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky light up. They did not know what had happened. They only knew that something had changed. In her bunker, Yunji pressed the button to send her broadcast. Across the world, humans heard her words and felt something they had not felt in months. Hope. Nayar stood outside, looking at the stars, remembering her promise to a man who had given everything. "We will rebuild," she whispered. "I swear we will." Vareth fleet drifted in confusion. Their commander was dead. Their flagship was gone. Their invincible armada had been bloodied by primitives flying suicide missiles, and somewhere in that chaos, Subcommander Vex made a decision that would change history. He chose to live, which meant he had to run. The Varath fleet was dying, not from weapons fire, not from human attacks. It was dying from something far worse, fear. Subcommander Vex stood on the bridge of his cruiser, now the largest surviving ship in the fleet. Around him, officers stared at screens that showed nothing but chaos. The command ship was gone. Commander Threll was gone. 40 ships had been destroyed or damaged in the explosion. And now, across the fleet, soldiers were panicking. "What are your orders, sir?" an officer asked. Vex did not answer immediately. He walked to the viewport and looked down at Earth's that small blue world that had cost them so much. It looked so peaceful from up here. So harmless. He now knew that was the greatest lie in the galaxy. "Bring me Scholar Cora," he said quietly. She came quickly, her eyes red from crying. She had been fond of some of the officers who died on the command ship. Unlike most Vareth, she had learned to see individuals, not just ranks. "I have read your reports," Vex said. "All of them. Tell me the truth, can we win this war?" Cora hesitated. Then she shook her head. "No, why?" She took a deep breath. "Because winning requires breaking the enemy's will to fight. And humans," she gestured helplessly, "they do not break. Their history is full of wars where they fought to the last person. They have a concept called going down fighting. They consider it honorable to die rather than surrender. Even if we killed 90% of them, the remaining 10% would keep attacking. They would teach their children to attack, their grandchildren. They would pass down hatred for 1,000 generations." Vex nodded slowly. "The Dominion has conquered 47 species. None of them behaved like this." "No, because those species were sane. Cora's voice trembled. Humans are not sane. Not by our definition. They are beautiful and terrible, creative and destructive. They love with all their hearts and hate with all their souls. They did not evolve as conquerors like us. They evolved as survivors. Their planet tried to kill them every day for millions of years, and they refused to die. They cannot be conquered because they do not know how to stop fighting. It is written into their very nature. Vex was silent for a long moment. Then he made the decision that would save what remained of his fleet and change the galaxy forever. Signal all ships. We are withdrawing. The bridge erupted in shock. Sir, the High Council did not fight these creatures. I did. Vex's voice was hard as stone. I will not sacrifice more soldiers to learn what we already know. This world is not worth the price. Within hours, the Varith fleet began moving away from Earth. Ships that had orbited like conquering gods now fled like wounded animals. Soldiers who had laughed at human weapons now prayed they would never see Earth again. Before he left, Vex sent one final transmission to the planet below. People of Earth, this is Subcommander Vex of the Varith Dominion. Your commander is dead. My commander is dead. Many thousands have died on both sides. We came here expecting an easy conquest. We were wrong. He paused, choosing his words carefully. This is not surrender. The Dominion does not surrender. This is acknowledgement. You have earned your survival. You have proven yourselves something more than prey. I do not know what you are, but I know what you are not. You are not a species that will ever kneel. The transmission ended. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. Earth's sky was empty for the first time in months. Across the planet, humans looked up and saw stars instead of enemy ships. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the cheering began. It started smaller. Few voices in a bunker, a crowd in a shelter. But it grew and spread, city to city, country to country, until the entire world rang with the sound of human celebration. They had won. Against impossible odds, against technology centuries ahead of their own, against an empire that had never known defeat. They had won, but not everyone celebrated. EUN-G stood in the empty command center, looking at maps that no longer mattered. The war was over. Humanity had survived, but so many had died. Han Tae-su, Woo-sung, Dong-sik, Bara, millions of others whose names would never be known. Nara found her there hours later. You should rest, Nari said. The fighting is over. Yeonji shook her head. The fighting is over. But the work is just beginning. She turned to face the younger woman. The Varith will tell others about us. Every species in the galaxy will know what happened here. Some will fear us. Some will want to study us. Some will want to finish what the Varith started. Her eyes were cold and calculating. We cannot be caught weak again. Not ever. The months that followed proved her right, using captured Varith technology. Human scientists achieved what should have taken centuries. Faster than light travel. Energy shields. Weapons that could crack moons. They learned with terrifying speed, driven by a simple truth: they were no longer alone in the universe. And the universe was not friendly. Within a year, the first human warships launched into orbit. They were ugly things, brutal combinations of human engineering and alien technology. They looked nothing like the sleek Varith vessels. They looked like weapons made by people who had learned that beauty was less important than survival. Yuna led the scientific teams, working without rest to understand everything the Varuth had left behind. We spent thousands of years looking at the stars and wondering if anyone was out there, she told her team. Now we know. And we will never be helpless again.